Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits podcast. We are the first generation to parent while balancing screens, life, and family. Each episode features insights, tips, and takeaways to help establish safe, mindful habits while living your family's healthiest digital life. I'm your host, Hillary Wilkinson. Now, whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, this is the podcast for you. Cheryl Cardall is a mother who fights. As a proud mom of 5 and a wife of almost 25 years to her husband, David, Cheryl has committed to actively engaging and battling the stigma surrounding mental illness. I first came to know Cheryl via Instagram, where she served as a friendly, compassionate face that openly shared her daily struggles as a relatable mom. Now, Cheryl has expanded her battleground to include the field of podcasting. As the host of Fight Like a Mother podcast, she opens the gates on tough conversations and touching moments. I'm so happy we have a chance to sit down today and talk. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Cheryl Cardall.
Thank you, Hillary, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. So Cheryl, I feel like I kind of want to start at the beginning with you, the root of your cause, the whole, like what fuels your fight and what led you to start the Fight Like a Mother podcast?
Well, a few years ago, we started to see some behaviors in some of our kids that were pretty concerning. And it come to find out that they were struggling with mental illness, and trying to find resources and a community of people who get it was really lacking. It was hard to find the therapists that work. It was hard to find information. I didn't realize that anger and rage was a major symptom of anxiety and depression in boys.
Oh.
And so I decided that I was going to create the resources and the community that I was so lacking back in those first days when I didn't know what was happening and I needed more information.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I feel like I have learned so much just in listening to your podcast. And one of the segments that you do that I have particularly enjoyed are your warrior segments. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I find those are like things to set your calendar by. They are so good.
So this year, I started my podcast last August in 2020. And this year I decided that one of the segments I wanted to feature people who are in the trenches of living with mental illness and are warriors. And so I have had, 4 now, warrior stories of people who are battling mental illness or are raising kids with mental illness. And those stories are really touching. And I think one of my missions is to break the stigma of talking about mental illness. And that's one of the main reasons why I started to share these warrior stories, is so that it becomes people sharing their stories is not unusual. People sharing that they have mental illness is not unusual.
Right. And for example, just to touch on like one of the warriors that you featured, because I don't have a personal experience with mental illness, I never realized how difficult pregnancy and postpartum depression and all of that can be for someone who is already, it starts kind of almost like layering on top
Right.
of things. And I had no idea. So,
Right. I think that was my guest, Sarah, who had bipolar disorder, and then she gets pregnant. You have to go off your medications, and it just snowballs into this really intense problem of significant mental illness. And that Sarah is a warrior. She's amazing.
yeah, no, I really enjoyed that episode. I feel like many of the challenges that I hear addressed on your podcast have overlap with questions and concerns that we receive at Healthy Screen Habits. And so I have to ask you kind of just get right into the meat of it. How do you see screens affecting mental health?
Well, they definitely affect mental health. They can, now I do want to say though, screen time, social media, etc., does not cause clinical depression or anxiety. It can add to it if a child already, or a person already has clinical mental illness. That can absolutely intensify, add to it, etc. And kids can experience anxiety and depression that is not clinical. It can be more situational due to being bullied on social media or comparing themselves to others, or all those unhealthy things that can come from screen time, from social media time. Those are all things. They can feel that anxiety, they can feel that depression, but it does not cause the clinical diagnoses. So I wanted
Okay.
to be clear on that.
Sure.
But it can definitely add to it.
Yes. So you see it as more of like an exacerbationary point rather than a root cause.
Right. And I think a lot, anxiety is a buzzword right now with so many. A lot of kids say, oh, I have anxiety and things like that. And a lot of our kids are feeling a lot of anxiety just due to circumstances in our society right now. They're hearing about the news, they're reading about school shootings, they're reading about our 24/7 news cycle exacerbates that
Living through a
anxiety.
pandemic.
Living through a pandemic, all of those things can cause feelings of anxiety, and a lot of kids are feeling that right now.
Right.
So we need to take it seriously. Even if it's not clinical, we still need to take it seriously.
Right. And I also think, to your point, many people use this phrase anxiety or anxiousness in only a negative light. And, I love the kind of flip on that I've heard where, that feeling, that anxious feeling is supposed to be there because it's what kind of gets your body on alert. And instead of viewing it as only a negative feeling, like if we talk to our kids and teach them that, hey, this is your body giving you a warning sign that something's not right, and you have to be a detective and pull it apart and figure out what's the thing that's giving you anxiety, and then you can work on resolving it, and you can actually use it as a strength building tool. So in a way it becomes more of a helper mode rather than a herder.
It can be. And one of the reasons why, anxiety is built into our brain to keep us safe. That amygdala is this feature in our brain that helped our ancestors who were searching for food and being chased by animals stay safe. And when you have clinical or severe situational anxiety, it's in overdrive. And
Sure.
so you do have to learn how to bring it back into a normal state. But you're right, anxiety doesn't always have to be a bad thing if it's in control. I mean, if we're in control of it, if anxiety is not in control of us.
Yes. Yes, I like that. Interesting. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to ask Cheryl specifically about warning signs surrounding online behavior. Do you know what's happening during your child's online exchanges? As well intentioned as we are, often reading every text message, post, and email is just not realistic. This is where Bark comes in to help. Founded in 2015, Bark Technologies provides a parental control app that monitors and alerts parents to online threats. Bark was created for parents by parents to offer a better, easier, and more effective way to keep children safe online. Bark monitors posts and messagings for things like signs of bullying and communication with dangerous strangers. Bark's algorithms analyze all activity and issue parents notifications via their chosen communication method. Gain peace of mind and get 10% off of Bark service for life by using the Healthy Screen Habits link. Go to our website at healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the Tools button in the drop down menu, and look for products we endorse to find Bark. It will be the easiest click you make all day. Peace of mind is just a bark away. Today, I'm speaking with Cheryl Cardall. She is a parenting coach and has been passionately educating and encouraging moms for over a decade. So, Cheryl, I'm going to tap into some of your experience with parent education now and recognizing that mental illness manifests itself in different forms. I'm putting on my healthy screen habit lens here and I'm going to ask a tech specific question. Do you have tips for recognizing what I would qualify as problematic online behavior or behavior that we might be able to observe in our own families and think, this isn't following a healthy path?
Absolutely. I think that anytime kids are utilizing screens to get out of doing healthy things, they are utilizing it to numb themselves from hard things that are happening. Now, all of us, it's okay to numb sometimes. It's okay. Our brain needs a break sometimes. It's okay for them to watch shows or play games. I'm not going to demonize tech at all because there are ways we can use it in healthy ways, right? But when it gets
Absolutely.
to be super intense, they're hiding their tech use from you. They don't want you to look at their phones. They're spending hours and hours a day on it. Maybe that's all they look forward to doing. Those are some warning signs that to look for with our kids.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over those again to make sure that I heard them. So, hiding tech, not wanting you to see what their online activities are. And then what was the third one? Sorry.
Do I even remember what? I think just overusing it. I think
Okay,
just
sure. That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
and using it
Yes.
to numb those more healthy behaviors. They want to be playing screens instead of being outside playing with their friends. They are utilizing those screens to numb doing hard things or
Right.
avoid hard
Using the
feelings.
screen to kind of disengage
Yeah,
from life.
someday. Yeah,
And we see that both in overuse of online gaming, pornography, social media misuse. I mean, it goes across the board. Those are always what I call the big three.
right.
And I agree with you. It's kind of follows the line of an addiction pathway where you are adopting maladaptive behavior that's no longer helpful to help you escape a bigger issue.
Yeah. I do
So,
think we have to be careful using the addict label on kids, though. I
mm-hmm.
think that's a really heavy label to put on kids and teens because that's almost something they feel like they can't get out of. And
That's a
so
good point.
I think maybe they have a habit, an unhealthy habit with these. But I do think, we had somebody put a label on one of our kids as an addict, and it was really actually damaging because it created a lot of shame and things like that. So I think we have to be careful about that addict label when they're so young.
Sure. Well, thank you for opening my eyes because I may be somebody who's throwing that term around without recognizing the weight that it's carrying. So
Yeah, it's
thank
kind of
you.
weighty. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I completely agree with you. Um, the other point that you made that I completely agree with is it's not that the tech is the actual problem. It's like what we go back to. I did an earlier episode with Emily Churkin, who's the screen time consultant, and she spoke specifically about we are not, and this I just thought it resonated with Healthy Screen Habits message. We are not anti-tech. We
Right.
are tech intentional. So it's
Yeah, I love
whenever
that.
that use of technology loses its intention, I think is where we have to
And it
look
kind of takes
closely.
over life. I mean,
Hmm.
we have a lot of fun as a family playing video games, watching movies, even, looking at funny YouTube videos or memes that my kids see on social media. I think there are a lot of fun ways to use tech to connect as a family
Yeah.
and build those relationships. There are obviously ways that that it disconnects us as well.
Right. But honestly, it has been a huge relationship builder during this time of pandemic that we've
Absolutely.
been
Right.
living through. And I kind of feel like there's this collective bracing for a bit of parents for pulling back and easing away from screens as we move out of the pandemic. And how do you coach parents to develop boundaries around technology?
Well, I would say you need to have your kids' input into those boundaries. That I know a lot of people will print a tech contract off online and present it to their kids and have those kids sign it, and there's no buy-in for the kids.
Right.
And
If their
I think
fingers aren't on the blueprint, it's
exactly. And I think tech, again, it can divide us or it can connect us. And when we use it kind of as a power grab as parents, it separates us from our kids. When we include them in our rules and boundaries and all of those things, it has the ability to connect us as people and families. And I think that's so important to get your kids buy-in as to the rules regarding tech and allow them to negotiate. Hey, mom, I know I've had my 30 minutes on my video game today, but I'd really like to finish this level with my friends. It'll take 20 more minutes. Is that okay? You know what?
right.
That's okay.
Because I also going back to it, because that shows intention behind their use. They're not just going on it to numb
Yeah.
out completely. If they're saying, I need about 20 more minutes, or I need to, if we can just finish this level, then you come from a place of understanding. I
And
love that.
instead of mom freaking out that you're past your limit and you've got to get off right now. And I mean, I've done this. I've gone and turned the TV off right then. And it's created resentment and disconnection. And I think, you know, our kids learning to negotiate with us, that's a really good life skill as well.
Yeah.
So I think opening up that communication and knowing that they can talk to us about it and that we're reasonable and flexible is really important way to connect with them.
Okay. And to that end, on our website, we have a free downloadable template called the Family Tech Plan, which can serve as this kind of conversational springboard that you can have with your family. It's not a contract where it's like everyone signs on a line. It's more used as, like I said, a conversational springboard around various areas surrounding tech, and each family member gets their own fingerprints on it. So, and it's something that is meant to be a living document. You visit it again and again as ages and stages apply. This is kind of feeding right into the next area I wanted to talk about, which I think that one of the reason I always found you to be so relatable on your Instagram feed was or is, I should say, you're really great at putting your relationships with your children above everything else, and you use that relationship as your guiding principle. I mean, that's what comes through to me. And so what I kind of am interested in pursuing is, how do you find the difference between upholding the rules yet protecting that relationship? Do you think it all comes down to that dialogue, or how do you do that?
I do think it comes down to the dialogue. I think it comes down to yes, we are the parents and we need to follow through on the boundaries and things. But I find with my kids, when we've had a conversation beforehand about what the rules are, what the boundaries are, etc., it goes much better. And when they do push through those boundaries, which happens, when we have that relationship, you're not completely disconnected from them when they do push through those boundaries, and there have to be those consequences and things like that.
Right. There's a fallback on.
There's a fallback. That relationship, you put deposits into that relationship. And so, yeah, there's a big withdrawal when they know you're upset with them, when you have to enforce the boundaries, etc. But it doesn't deplete it to nothing because you've worked really hard on building those relationships.
Yeah. Okay.
And I also want to say with screens, maybe we're going to ask this question later, but I think sometimes we give them too much power. I think that when screens become all about our rewards, their consequences are all about screens. It gives them too much power. You know, if you do this, you can play on your iPad. If you break these rules, then you're going to take screens away for a week. It makes it seem like screens are the be all end all.
Well, and it
And
almost causes this third party within your relationship. So it becomes, instead of this back and forth between you and your child, it's now this triad of you and the screen
and
and the
screen.
child. And it becomes very problematic.
That becomes the screen becomes the most powerful thing in the home almost when it's utilized for all consequences and rewards.
Right. So, okay, if you had the opportunity to have a billboard on Times Square, this is your chance to send your message to the world. So, if you had the opportunity to have a billboard on Times Square and could broadcast your message to the world about kids' mental health, what do you think that might be?
I would say two things. Kids do well when they can. When they're not doing well, there's something deeper going on. And second is that the relationship is the most important. Focus on that relationship. All the other stuff is fluff.
Okay, I love that because it's so simple. Kids do well when they can. Like, it's so simple yet very profound. And that's something that you've seen reflected in your own family as well as the parents that you've coached.
Absolutely. I think when we have that perspective of if my kid isn't doing well, if they're having these really tough behaviors, if we're having conflict, what's deeper? What's happening that's deeper? Instead of focusing on those hard behaviors, what's really going on with them?
Uh-huh. So just sitting down and having the deeper conversations. Do you find during those conversations, are there any, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I wish as a mom, like there was a code book that I could
Right.
flip open to and go, oh, okay, if I hear these words, I need to be, I need to really, up my mom antenna. Do you have any code words?
I think that as moms, my biggest tip for moms when I coach them is it's all right here.
Oh,
All you
you're
need
pointing to your heart.
is in your heart. You are their mom for a reason. You can tune into that intuition that you have for them. And you know when your child isn't doing well, you can see it. You can see it in their behaviors, in the way they talk, in their attitudes. And trust that and believe your kids.
And this
Um,
is where I think your title of your podcast comes in, Fight Like a Mother, because sometimes when you have that feeling as the mom, the quote unquote experts are not in agreement with you. And I
right.
think that's when you have to really armor up and just walk strong onto that battlefield for your child.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is that armor, and you really do have to fight for them. But when you know in your heart, something's not right here, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to go to the next expert if this one won't listen to me.
Yeah.
Pursuing that for the good of your child, it's all within you to know what to do.
You share a story that I wonder if you could share on here. I've heard you. Maybe it was on your podcast. It was about one of your children who was having a very hard day, and you allowed them to. I don't remember whether it was to stay late from school or to skip. Well, does this ring a bell?
It does.
Okay.
Well, and this actually happens fairly regularly in my house because I have 5 children, and 5 out of 5 have some extent of mental health challenges.
Okay.
And so, this isn't an unusual story, but one of my kids just school's been hard for him this year due to the pandemic, due to wearing masks. He has sensory issues. It's hard to wear a mask all day long. And I took him to school and he literally had a panic attack in the parking lot. And I said, okay, we're going home. So we came back home. He fell asleep, slept for 2 hours, woke up and said, I think I can go to school.
Mm.
So we went to school and I took him, and the receptionist was saying, oh, why are you late? And he didn't want to say. So I said, okay, you run off to class. And I said, he was a little anxious about coming back to school today. And she said, oh yeah, a bunch of kids are. And I thought, here's my chance. Here's my chance to fight for him, to educate about what's really going on. This wasn't just a stomach ache that he didn't want to go to school. This is clinical anxiety.
Right.
And so I explained to her a lot of what he was dealing with. And then I realized I hadn't really explained to his teacher. So I wrote an email to his teacher later that day. And I said, I would just want you to know, I haven't explained this very well. This is what he's dealing with. And both of those women that I explained that to said, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you explained that to me, because now I understand better when he's having a hard day, because he's come home a lot with stomach aches. He's, gone up to them and said, I feel sick, and they'll try and keep him at school and things like that. So, that's part of fighting for your kids, is allowing them to have those hard days and nurturing them and loving them through it.
Yes, yes. And I love that you find those opportunities for education, because when you educate others, it empowers your child. And
Right.
he indirectly feels that from the support of the adults surrounding him, but also it further cements that I've got somebody in my camp feeling when he knows that you've got his back.
Well, and I think one more thing, if I can share, is empowering your kids to understand their brain. We have books that we've read that teach him about anxiety. I mean, he's my youngest child, that teach my other kids about what anxiety is, and that anxiety doesn't have to be the boss of you. This is what it is. This is why you're feeling this way. And for them to understand that really empowers them to feel like they can be in charge.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, I love it. Awareness breeds education, and education brings empowerment. And I feel like that hits all of those steps in that. Awesome. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Cheryl for her healthy screen habit.
Hi, I'm Amy Adams from Healthy Screen Habits. I have the privilege of running book club, and we invite you to join us each Friday over on Instagram at Healthy Screen Habits, where we discuss books that will help us create healthy screen habits for a balanced life. We have a book that we do every couple months, and we hope you'll join us and enjoy and learn and grow with us.
We're back. I'm talking with Cheryl Cardall, the mom behind the Fight Like a Mother podcast. So, Cheryl, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask for a healthy screen habit that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. Do you have one?
I do. And I shared it a little bit before, but I would say don't let tech separate you from your kids. Empower them and you together to come together, communicate, and don't give screens all the power.
I love that. Right. Give up the power struggles and don't give screens all the power of the consequences and the rewards in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, I greatly encourage our listeners to go check out the Fight Like a Mother podcast. I guarantee you will learn so much, and in your learning, you will empower others. Cheryl, are there other platforms they could find you on?
You can find me on Instagram, just under my name, Cheryl Cardall, or I'm also there with Fight Like a Mother podcast on Instagram. You can go to my website, fightlikeamotherpodcast.com. And I am on Facebook, but not nearly as active as I am on Instagram.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. You're a mom who fights, but I'll stand by your side any day.
Thanks, Hillary. Thanks for having me.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.